Oh, we're recording now.
Yeah, let's count it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, guys? We are the Leg Kick podcast where we avoid stick and ball sports like the plague. There may have been a sport ball game going on the weekend. I don't actually know about it. But, well.
Stefano, you've never avoided a stick or ball in your
Guilty as charged. Yeah, it just, I don't like sports involving stick and balls, but in my personal life, I mean, stick and balls are, a big feature. Big feature there. So, guys.
Remember when this used to be a Christian podcast?
Those days are long gone.
We've never had, I don't understand, we've never had Christian Yabo on once, yet you keep saying it's a Christian podcast.
That's funny. If you currently own a podcast studio, please come house us. We are currently homeless, and I'm pretty sure our former Christian owners would not be happy to have us back after some of the things we said on this podcast. I'm looking at you, Stefano, specifically.
Christian owners wouldn't be the first time that Christians owned slaves.
Alrighty, okay.
In fact, if you look in the Bible, it's actually provision slaves Christianity. So, anyways, we are the Leg Kick podcast, the best podcast in combat sports. Luke Thomas live chat be damned. We are here to inform you. We're here to entertain you. But most of all, we're here to titillate you.
Wait, what? A titty? What?
Speaking of which, you know what I did this weekend when the Superbowl was going on? Before we get into the sports, guys.
Sure.
Titillate yourself?
I watched the world. First of all, hot take: Stanley Kubrick is not as good as director as everyone says he is. There, I said it.
Yeah, we're just gonna let that take die right there.
These guys have never seen a Kubrick movie.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. What's a Stanley Kubrick?
No, you've never seen Eyes Wide Shut?
Bro, I'm not even from here. Like,
you're from England.
You don't even go here.
You can't play the I am not from here, I'm from Africa card. I need $300 to get back to my homeland. Well, you guys never seen, Clockwork Orange is a good movie, but 2001: A Space Odyssey, Full Metal Jacket.
I've seen that one.
Oh my God.
Well, anyways, because I'm on the podcast with a bunch of uncultured fools, we'll just move straight into it.
Dude, I was like,
who do you guys?
How many Tyler Perry? Let me ask you a question.
The
how many
new
Tyler Perry movies have you watched, Stefano?
Tyler Perry. Isn't he the one who dresses up like a woman all the time?
How many movies have you watched?
Don't
talk to me about cinematic knowledge ever.
Wait, what? Hold on. I might. What movies has he made? Name a few. I've seen a few Tyler Perry movies.
Michael, please do the thing.
Okay. What? Do the Medea thing?
Yeah, the Medea thing. Come on, list the Medea movies.
Hello.
Wait, is this supposed to be cinematic excellence?
No.
Is he like a Black Quentin Tarantino or something?
We got a special guest in here.
Oh,
look. It's the absentee Jeremy Asiffo.
Where did you come from?
Did you notice how I walked in with my head? What happened? He
came from like a separate place into like sorry, go on.
Jeremy, you better be here to talk about the Frankie Edgar fight.
This is how that joke went. You notice how I walked in with my head held down in shame?
Why, you're a big Frankie Edgar fan?
Damn.
No, but you guys are gonna have to update me on that discussion. I'm holding my head down in shame because if you listen to me and placed a bet based on my prediction for the Super Bowl, I have grossly and utterly misguided you,
led astray,
hoodwinked,
bamboozled,
run amok. All that.
Flat out deceived.
All that. Listen, I told Michael I had to get up from my class and come and just address the audience. Look, I clearly know nothing about football. I gave you the wrong prediction in the national championship game, and I've made you lose your money once again for the Super Bowl. So I clearly know nothing about football. This is gonna be the last time I'm gonna make any predictions. And
Dude,
wait, football. I thought this was an MMA podcast. What's going on?
That's funny.
I'm so sorry.
Jeremy, I heard, I think you've already answered what I heard, that you know nothing about football. Also heard, I guess.
What's football?
It's the sport that you played and couldn't make it onto the field.
Damn.
Hey. Special teams is very much the field, okay?
What happened?
Special teams is very much the field.
Of course it is.
All right? Just
Of
because I
course.
had an unimportant role doesn't mean I didn't have a role.
Wait, hold on a second. You played special teams, big guy?
Yep, second string linebacker and special teams.
Hey.
Yeah, it's the guys who are expendable.
All
All right. Yeah, no, I got to get back to school. So
Thank you
For the record, you're a football legend. Don't let a couple predictions discourage you.
Well,
guys,
Jeremy's got to get back. Jeremy's got to get back to the retirement home and nurse his bad takes. Do a little bit more studying.
guys, have a good show. You guys look great. Keep up the good work.
Love
Thanks,
you, bud.
man. Appreciate that. I dressed for the occasion.
That was our resident stick and ball coordinator, Jeremy Asiffo. What to say? Wow. Must be a Sarnia thing. Anyways, we're
Whoa! I love how only me and you are gonna get that.
it's a Sarnia thing. Anyways, back in our non-studio studio, we have Michael Asiffo, fresh off his victory over syphilis. We've got David Agbaire. He's stoked and ready for the pay-per-view coming up this weekend when his fellow Nigerian, Kamaru Usman, learns the power of jiu-jitsu and gets submitted by Gilbert Burns.
Yeah.
And then there's me, icon, combat sports legend. What are a couple of things that I don't exactly qualify for? I don't know, but I'm here and I'm ready to talk some shit about the fights. We are the Leg Kick. Guys, how you doing? What's up? How's life?
Wonderful.
I'm well. Ready to talk about a pretty decent fight night card, I find. Yeah.
No, it was sneaky good actually. It wasn't Michelle Warson versus Angela Hill. No offense to those two ladies, but the card was barren, and this card was not.
This card had some interesting fights on it. It was fun. There was some a couple of moments that made us cry, a couple of moments that made us cheer. There was technical excellence. There was changing of the guard. There were all kinds of things. Any news? We want to dissect this like a frog, or what's going on? News? I guess there's a couple of matchups we need to talk about. Did we talk about Cerrone versus Sanchez?
I thought that was in the works, but is it official now? Can we confirm?
Yeah, I think it's official. So Donald Cerrone versus Diego Sanchez in the who wanted this category.
I mean, Cerrone can still go a little bit. It's Sanchez I'm worried about. Extremely worried about.
No comment, man.
As we are,
Dana White should be arrested for this fight.
Dude, but you know what's crazy?
He's not responsible for this.
You know what's crazy though? I've heard stories that his guy specifically, they can convince him to basically steal at the convenience store and he'd do it. It's weird. It's weird.
Yeah, do you hear the story about how Emil Mick went to go train with Diego Sanchez and Joshua Fabia ended up chasing them around the room with a knife as a form of training?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't even know what to say.
This guy's this Joshua Fabia is a crook. He's a quack. He's every word a fraud, a charlatan.
Yeah, that's awful.
No, he's leading people astray. That's just basically it.
I'm not exactly stoked to keep talking about this, but
yeah, man, I don't have a problem with Donald Cerrone fighting Diego Sanchez. I don't know. But then again, I don't even have that much. I have a problem with Diego Sanchez fighting, but I have an even bigger problem with him fighting Donald Cerrone.
So, let's see. Couple more pieces of news here. Rory McDonald, ahead of the PFL season, has actually changed camps. No longer with TriStar. He's now going to Sanford MMA.
Interesting. I wonder, is it because it's probably an easier decision for him to move, or is it because he's had some sort of disagreement or like some sort of falling out with Team TriStar?
That's a good question. Everything that I read on it says he's just looking for a change, but you really never know if he's had a falling out or not. Both him and Faraz aren't really the type to get into public confrontations of the sort. They both seem like kind of, very level-headed, measured people. So even if they were, I don't think they'd be saying much about it. But after a full career with TriStar and before that over at training at the same gym as our boys Mac and Polly over in Kelowna. I can't remember the name of the gym. Damn, the name escapes me. But Toshido. But he's now making his way over to Sanford MMA. Who's the head coach over there?
Hoofed. It's Hoofed. I think it's Hoofed.
Interesting. Yeah, well, that'll be a good look at least for this upcoming main event because he'll be able to put in work with Gilbert Burns and whatnot. But anything more to say about that?
Well, I'm just interested because, GSP for a while did the split thing, right? He would split his time between Jackson, Winklejohn, and TriStar. So for Rory to just say, okay, no, I'm going to exclusively move, right? For me, it just screams something's up. That's why, but maybe I'm just reading into it too much and I'm willing to be like, okay, I'm wrong. I know nothing. But yeah, it's just given how Faraz is kind of liberal with letting guys cross-train in other gyms, if Rory is just moving exclusively, I just feel like something is up, right? Or maybe it's just like a move decision where it's like, okay, if he lives in Florida now, why not just stay there or something?
Yeah. Yeah, South Florida looking like a hot spot for a lot of talent right now. This is a bit of a weird piece of news. You guys know Jose Canseco?
Yes, I do. The baseball player.
Did you remember when he fought in, I believe it was either MMA or K1 against Hongman Choi?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, you remember that too. So apparently over the weekend, he made a comeback into the combat sports world, fought a boxing fight, and you remember Rough and Rowdy? They're the boxing league that puts on all those abysmally looking, basically fans drawn from the crowd type fights.
Yeah, I think that's the point, though. It's like Barstool Sports. It's like, it's pretty lowbrow.
Well, Jose Canseco fought on it over the weekend and was knocked out in 10 seconds, made about $1 million. So,
Hold on a second. He fought on Rough and Rowdy and lost?
And lost in about 10 seconds, yeah. I don't know who it was to. I feel dirty for even reading that, to be honest with you.
Isn't Jose Canseco like 60 right now? What is he?
Let's look that up.
Man, Jose Canseco. I'm pretty sure he's in his, if not 60s, mid 50s.
Yeah, that's gross. I mean, geez. I didn't know anything about him from his pre-combat sports days, but that is just
he's basically the steroid snitch in baseball. That's what he's known for.
Oh, he's a steroid snitch, is he?
Yeah. But it's weird to say snitch because he basically I wouldn't say he cleaned it up himself, but his actions led to baseball being cleaned up a bit, at least in the public eye.
So he ratted out on his teammates who were doing just what they needed to do to get by. Seems like a real 5-star gentleman. Anyways, another piece of news, we have Brendan Allen versus Sadiq Youssef signed. Sorry, Arnold Allen. Arnold Allen versus Sadiq Youssef signed.
I was about to say Brendan Allen's middleweight.
So yeah, sorry about that. Arnold Allen, who has been absent for a little while, and this is a scrap. I'm excited for this one. Arnold Allen, a little more of a well-rounder. Sadiq Youssef, obviously a very, very explosive counter striker. So this is going to be fun. Interesting implications for kind of the featherweight division, because this is kind of the middle of the pack, rising contender matchup, if you will.
Both ranked, Arnold Allen's still ranked, right? Number 11?
I believe so, even though he's been inactive since, I believe that Max, what's his face fight. Yeah.
But yeah, okay. Yeah, no, Sadiq Youssef's also been kind of inactive too a little bit, no? If I remember correctly.
I think he had an early pandemic. Let's take a look at this.
Before the pandemic he had a fight, in 2020, but he had a little bit of a layoff I don't know if he fought during the pandemic at all. Well, during the lockdowns, right? The pandemic's been going on since December. theoretically. So
Yeah, but
yeah.
the shutdowns happened in March.
Yeah.
Let's see, Sadiq Youssef.
Like,
Andre Fili fight back in January of 2020. So he's been inactive for about a year. Yeah, missed out on a lot of the pandemic fights. And I think Arnold Allen's been inactive for a little bit longer than that.
Yeah, I would say probably December 2019 is probably his last fight, if I remember correctly.
It was Nick Lentz. Actually, wow. 25th of January 2020 against Nick Lentz by unanimous decision. Interesting. Okay. So about a commensurate level of inactivity for both of them.
Yeah. So both coming off layoffs. I mean, it's crazy. I would have thought if anyone would have jumped at the chance to just take some people out, it would have been Sadiq Youssef, but he just never did. Which is weird. But then again, at that division, you kind of want to. It's such a competitive division. Even the unranked guys could take you out at any second. So you kind of want to, hold on a little bit.
Yeah, 45 these days, every bit as deep as 55. Interesting division. David, you got nothing to say about your Nigerian boy Sadiq Youssef?
Nah, man, this one's gonna be a tough one because I actually kind of like Arnold Allen because he's British as well. So, but
this fight is David's
with the Nigerian.
This fight is David's opposing identities coming to fight each other for who reigns supreme over his consciousness.
The only thing worse would be if they were also Canadian as well. But yeah, no, I like Sadiq Youssef. I like what I've seen so far. My money's on him.
Just 3 more pieces of news to get through here. I guess we won't. Oh no, 4, because I know Mike's going to want to get into this 4th one. So we'll try and rattle these off as quickly as we can. Did we talk about Tyron Woodley versus Vicente Luque? I believe we did.
No, but I like this fight a lot for Tyron Woodley. Get back into it. Face somebody who. Look, here's the thing about Tyron Woodley is he's a little gun shy about hitting and missing. If anything about Vicente Luque, missing and Vicente Luque making you miss do not mix. So I think Tyron Woodley will have. I'm not saying it's going to be target practice, and he's definitely going to receive some shots coming back. But this is a good fight for him to at least get his confidence back in his strikes.
Right? Wow, so, I don't think this is an easy fight at all. I
don't think it's an easy fight. Sorry.
Matchup. No, I'm just saying. I think unless Tyron Woodley comes there, ready to bang, he's going to get lit up because Vicente Luque is not going to play around. And he's not going to be gun shy. He's going to bring it to you, or he's going to bring it to Tyron. So I think Tyron is going to either have to prove that all those videos we see of him in Thailand and all those training camps in Thailand actually mean something, or he's going to have to wrestle Vicente Luque and lean on that D1 wrestling background that we all kind of been talking about. But yeah, if he thinks it's not going to be an easy matchup either way. And honestly, if he loses this one, where does he go from there?
It's difficult because this is the first non-championship level fighter that he would have lost to, and Vicente Luque, just looking down his record here, I'm trying to think if he's been, not saying that Woodley can't grind him out. I think his last loss to someone that's a wrestler was the Michael Graves fight in the Ultimate Fighter finale back in 2015. And to be honest, I don't remember much about that.
That doesn't even count. That was so long ago.
Yeah, and I don't even know how he lost that fight, to be honest. It's going to be a tough one. You're right. Luque is the type to bring the fight to you. And, he's going to be ending combinations with that big left hook, looking to counter Woodley. He can absorb an incredible amount of punishment. I don't think he's ever been stopped. Woodley should be looking to a level change under that left hook when Luque tries to counter. But it's a fun fight. It's a fun fight. And, respect to Woodley for, taking a fight that doesn't exactly have the same title implications, trying to get himself back in there. And Luque's a tough out. And I don't think a lot of people are really clamoring at the bit to fight Vicente Luque, as evidenced by his record. This guy's kind of fighting not a lot of names on his record, but he's fairly active. He's fighting people left, right, and center. 2 fights since the pandemic.
Yeah, man. And, shouts out to Tyron Woodley, just quickly. Sorry, Michael. For even how many times now, how many fights in a row? Before the narrative was, Woodley's ducking fights. He doesn't want to take tough fights. How many tough fights has he taken in a row, really? Even though, the result might not have gone the way he wanted.
Yeah, no, he took a short notice one against Burns. Then he took one against Colby. And then now he's taking one that's, again, tough matchup. Not saying it's not tough, but what I am saying though is this is a guy who's not going to level change, right? So
Yeah.
Tyron Woodley's going to get that confidence. I think this is a good test to see if he's going to get that confidence back in that right hand, because that was the problem, right? He was gun shy with that right. So
personally, I think people can be a little bit uncharitable towards Tyron Woodley. I think there are criticisms of him to be made stylistically, and obviously being gun shy on the counters and whatnot, and maybe he's slowed down a bit speed wise, but yeah, I don't think he's been one to duck a fight. I think his title run, he more or less fought whoever was next in line.
I think the problem is that
like three guys.
I think
he fought like three guys. You can't say he fought whoever was next. He fought like three guys.
Well, Dana made him fight him. Yeah.
He fought like three guys. One of those is because he had to have had, a second fight with Stephen Thompson, who nobody wanted to fight. Who was really around at the time, who was a big contender that he ducked.
I'd have to go back and check.
Yeah.
Like he wanted Covington, he ended up fighting.
He wanted Colby. He wanted it.
Masvidal never really made it to that title. By
the time Masvidal was big, Woodley lost the title already.
Yeah. So to me, I don't think ducking is really a fair accusation. In fact, I think ducking is something that, unless there's really solid evidence of it, and I don't even think turning down a matchup at a certain time can necessarily be called ducking. I don't know.
Yeah.
The problem is Dana. It's. I hate to do this because I hate saying, "Oh, Dana White does this, Dana White does that, Dana White." Because again, it's not always his fault. But whenever a guy turns down the fight for monetary reasons, because things like this. I have a friend's wedding that day or around that time. Can we reschedule? Or things like that. Dana White goes to the media and goes, "This guy didn't want to fight." When in reality, there's a lot more nuance to the situation, right?
Yeah.
No way to.
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan of those kind of shenanigans.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say like Dana White says people are like ducking fights, but he does use the broad term "doesn't want to fight" like so broadly that people just like assume that he means.
Yeah, and often we've seen that as a negotiating tactic. Like we've seen him come out to the media and say so and so doesn't want to fight. Like remember George St. Pierre doesn't want to fight, and then several months later we find out there are negotiations and they ink a deal against Michael Bisping.
Yeah,
it's a negotiating tactic. I don't really take the kinds of things that he says seriously because, part of it is playing to a certain demographic of fans. Part of it is strategic as a part of negotiations. Part of it is PR. So you never really can take him at his word because he's quite possibly being strategic. So let's just get through these next three pieces because I know we're going to have something to say about them. Next, we've got final fight announcement, Sean O'Malley versus Thomas Almeida. Now, to me, Thomas Almeida, he's no softball, phenomenal jiu-jitsu, and has done a lot to improve his striking skills. But he's on a 3-fight skid right now. We've got a loss to Jimmy Rivera in 2017. Then in 2018, we have a KO loss to Rob Font, January 2018. And then he fought in October of 2020, fairly recently, lost to Jonathan Martinez, who I'm not even too familiar with. And then before that, we have a win and a loss to Cody Garbrandt. So we've got a fighter who's been fairly inactive. 1-4 in his last 5.
Yeah.
And, in the past
I just
5
think
years, I guess. Sorry.
But I think but the thing is that's a deceptive 1-4. This is a extremely phenomenal grappler, passable on the feet, and he's fighting tough guys who end up becoming something. And if you look at that record, those guys are not. That's a tough list. That's a tough list. So
no softball for O'Malley. That's for sure.
Right, but boy, if he loses though.
O'Malley should win this one.
Yeah, but boy, if O'Malley loses, though.
It's an interesting fight. It's by no means a foregone conclusion, and there are threats to O'Malley. There's obviously questions over, not his toughness. I wouldn't say his toughness, but over, his proneness to be injured in some regards and, to have I'm just going to come out and say it, legs that are susceptible to being hurt.
I mean,
That makes
that's
sense.
kind of based on one fight, though.
No, two.
Two.
Andre
What's the second one?
The
Andre
Sukumtat
Sukumtat.
fight, which he won, but the third round he spent hopping around on one leg, if you remember that.
Oh,
And he's had time off based on injury. And that's, it's not a knock against him. It's unfortunate. Some people are just have a structural thing, or it could just be, you're right. Who knows? It could just be coincidence because you have another man trying to kick your leg.
He rolled his ankle in one of the fights. Like, that's like a freak thing that like never happens.
Well, I've heard an argument that are you referring to the Cheeto Vera fight?
Cheeto Vera one, yeah.
So I've heard an argument, and this has personally happened to me before. When you throw that low kick and it hits the peroneal nerve, your leg kind of goes numb.
Yeah, it's gone.
It hurts like a bitch, and it kind of stops functioning. So that could explain that odd,
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Well, I do think he did roll his ankle as a. The thing is, it's a reach to say as a result. I just think that the nerve did get that. Definitely, he did kind of lose some functionality. But to say, okay, because of that, it then caused the ankle. I think that's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Where it's like butterfly effect, that butterfly effect is a little weird.
I think you're looking for a slippery slope, is what you're trying to say.
Exactly.
But
it's possible, but
it's possible. I'm not willing to stake a claim. I'm just saying it could have happened that way. You know what I mean? Like, maybe right, maybe wrong. I don't know. And then we have two pieces of news that I know Mike is dying to get into. He told me off air, Stefano, you better bring this up on air. If you don't, I will emancipate you.
I have no clue what this is.
So number one, over the weekend, our girl Paige Van Zandt losing in BKFC. Chris Lieben winning his BKFC fight and retiring, getting a knockout in the first round. Paige Van Zandt losing decision on all scorecards in what I was largely a boring and sloppy fight. Anything to say about this?
I didn't even watch it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I feel dirty covering bare knuckle, but it is.
I always say this. I would really love to see a bare knuckle MMA and not bare knuckle boxing. But
I don't even mind. I don't even mind bare knuckle boxing. I just find their model kind of scummy.
Yeah, I hear that.
So I guess we're all a little bit disheartened by this news. Paige, sorry about that. We look forward to your OnlyFans coming out.
For the record, she is releasing exclusive content. That is a thing.
Is it actually?
Yeah, not an OnlyFans. So I don't know if it's an OnlyFans per se, but she is exclusively releasing exclusive content. I will leave it at that, though. I'm not gonna say.
Knowing her, it's probably just vlogs of her and her husband taking couples walks on the beach.
Yeah,
and good on her.
Yeah, she said, "Hey, that's what she said, though." She released news that she's doing that. So yeah.
Yeah, what is the obsession? You know what? We don't have time for this pod. We got some actual fights to talk.
We do, and then
I can tell you. I can tell you what the obsession is. So
the final piece of news. I don't know if he sponsors Mike or Mike just looks up to him as an idol in journalism, but Stephen A. Smith making the comments the past week that he doesn't like seeing women fight in MMA. Do you want me to read the full quote?
I made a video on this, right?
Yeah, I thought it bore mentioning. Mike made a video defending Stephen A. Smith.
No, I didn't.
Accusing his detractors of racism, like he did the last time.
No, hold on. For the record, I did not.
Yeah, no, I think I watched that vid. He said anybody who's black and disagrees with Stephen A. Smith is an Uncle Tom. I think I remember you said.
Yeah, he did say that. You're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
It was weird.
People under the bus too.
Yeah.
He said that Stephen A. Smith, is the mouthpiece for all black people. And if you disagree with your overlord, then
I think he called him the most insightful MMA analyst we've had in the last 15 years.
I called him God King Stephen A. Smith.
I seem to remember that, David. I think he also called him the most important civil rights figure. I'm reading this here. And I think a couple of times he even called him Daddy.
Whoa!
So
Whoa.
I'm just going to read the Stephen A. Smith quote here. When I think about
am Michael's
pugilistic...
father. Sorry, go on.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Jesus, Darth Vader over here. When I think about pugilistic sports, I don't like seeing women involved in it at all, said Smith during Black on the Air podcast. I just don't like it. I wouldn't promote legislating laws to prohibit them from doing so, but I don't want to see women punching each other in the face. I don't want to see women fighting the octagon and stuff like that, but that's just me. Can I just quickly say something? Well, Stephen A. Smith, I just want to say, when I think about pugilistic sports, I don't like seeing Stephen A. Smith involved in it at all. I just don't like it. I wouldn't promote legislative laws to prohibit you from doing so, but I just don't like seeing Stephen A. Smith, vomiting verbal diarrhea all over a microphone. I don't want to see Stephen A. Smith commenting about fights in the octagon and stuff like that. But that's just me.
Stefano, that's racist.
Please go watch the video, though.
Two things. First of all, well, we all know how dumb that is, but Stephen A. Smith is friends and does a show with Molly Karam, probably one of the pioneer women MMA reporters out there. So
really, hold on, Molly Karam?
Yes, go look it up. She's been covering MMA for years. Before she went on First Date. She was there.
That's right. That is right. Yeah.
Second of all, it's funny how Stephen A. Smith went on a podcast to say this and didn't say this on his show. Probably because he knows what's up. Anyway.
Yeah, because Molly Karam would grind him to dust if she's. But that's the thing. Molly Karam isn't afraid to speak up on anything, right? It's kind of the double-edged sword with Molly Karam and the show, because she'll let a topic go on forever if she doesn't agree with it.
Hey, she's collecting those checks. Ain't no problem, man.
No, it's cool. It's just that when you got 30 minutes, and you've spent 28 minutes on one point, it kills you a little bit. But anyway,
can I just say something real quick?
Yeah.
Either way, my take on this, who the fuck cares? If this is his opinion, well, you're dumb and nobody should really bear listening to you. Suffer listening to you. And if you're just doing it as a sensationalist take to try and get eyes on you as a contrarian shitty opinion, who fucking cares? Nobody. That's just as shitty anyways. And in fact, it's a plague upon sports reporting and sports journalism, and it's just a terrible way to conduct yourself. So either way, I mean, whether he genuinely believes it or not, I don't care. You're polluting the waters, and who asked for this? It's like that Donald Cerrone Diego Sanchez fight. I don't remember going to the waiter and asking for a side of Stephen A. Smith. Can I send it back?
We asked for this. The second Dana White inked that deal with Disney.
But this is the problem. I didn't want to see.
We wanted to be the number one sport in the world, or to be covered like the number one sport. We wanted the media coverage. We wanted the ESPN coverage. This is what comes with it.
But the problem is that look, these guys educate themselves before talking about basketball. These guys educate themselves before talking about football.
Do they though?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Or do they? Or does Stephen A. Smith not go on random tirades against Kevin Durant? Does Colin Cowherd not go in random tirades against LeBron? Does Skip Bayless not say random stuff? This happens.
But at least they know the sport to a passable level where they don't look so stupid. You know what I'm saying? They'll look controversial.
We don't even have a contrarian culture in MMA. Luke Thomas is the most we have in terms of contrarian.
And Luke Thomas is an intelligent contrarian. Luke Thomas is a contrarian where he, simply because he doesn't go with the flow of I'm not just going to agree with all of these, takes that are out there in the atmosphere. Also, I do
want to say though, look, here's the thing though, as much of an idiot Stephen A. Smith is, when GSP did this in 2012, Habib is notorious for having comments about women in MMA. So is Makhachev. So is Fedor. So is Franz. But my point is this: what Stephen A. Smith said is stupid, but let's keep it consistent. Let's keep it consistent. So I'm not.
Well,
from
Michael,
now on,
I'll say this though: there is a group of fans, and we are spending way too much time on something that is not fights. But
fair enough.
I'll say this: like there are a group of fans of MMA fans, I'm assuming like Stefano, but also like myself, who when Khabib comes out and says something like, women shouldn't be fighting, they should be in the kitchen or something to that effect, like we are like, no, this is crazy. Like, what is this guy talking about? So a lot of people are against those stuff, but it's just like, man, like I don't.
But there's a huge fan base, and you guys are in the majority where what ends up happening is they drown him out because they'll look the other way and be like, me don't know what he said because it's Khabib, right? And so what I'm saying is we're picking when to stand up.
I agree with that.
I mean, I was against the. I don't know if I had the platform that we do now, like to speak on when the Khabib thing came out, but I remember being very much against what he said. I remember that. I didn't know GSP made those comments, but in 2012, I was very much in my nascence of MMA. I was still very young in the sport, so. I may have not been entirely familiar with it at the time. I'm going to have to fact check that. But as far as the Khabib comments, I remember being very much against that. Like, it was sexist. It was an awful thing to say. But I agree. Like, we do want to sweep things under the rug. And I just want to spotlight something David said. We all wanted MMA to be on the mainstream.
Yeah.
And this is what happens when you have a niche sport. Like, I'm not saying there aren't bad takes in MMA and haven't been. There's been tons of tap out Tommies and, just –
hey, don't use Tommy and Tapo in the same sentence because Tommy Tohol's gonna be mad.
No, you don't remember the meme Tap Out Tommy from back in the day?
Oh yeah.
That kid with the emo haircut and the tap out shirt. And I'm not saying there weren't brain dead takes before, but you can tell the difference between a take that comes from inside of the ecosystem and outside of the ecosystem.
Exactly.
And it's true. Like, as we open ourselves up to the mainstream, we're gonna get these brain dead troglodytes. But
my problem
that is the crazy thing. Just quickly,
and it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
We're gonna get you can say you've been inside an MMA gym and say you don't like women sparring.
Yeah, like what are you talking about?
Like, what are you talking about, man?
But this is my problem with the Stephen A thing is, like, I have very frustrating arguments with my parents, like almost to a weekly basis on MMA, and I can see how uneducated they are. I have very frustrating arguments, like, weekly, right? Being, kind of a voice in MMA, a small one, but a voice, right? On MMA. Very frustrating. But at least I thought if MMA goes to the mainstream, people are going to be forced to educate themselves to a passable level. I'm not expecting Stefano, me, Dan Hardy. I'm not expecting that. But what I am saying, though, is
hilarious.
This guy level, and so people can stop having these very frustrating arguments. And unfortunately, we haven't gotten there. But they'll do it for basketball, football, soccer, and hockey, which means one thing: they don't respect MMA. I think they don't. I think it's more than just that. I think why be an expert when you can be an expert? I think that the majority of fans that are going to come into MMA are casual fans. They're already the largest base, and as MMA becomes more mainstream, the casual fans are going to become less and less educated. We're not going to be creating more and more hardcores.
It tends to be how it works.
But it's just for me, like, everyone who knows everyone who's a casual fan of basketball educates themselves to a passable level, but they don't do it for MMA, which means, to me, it means simply they don't respect the sport. They don't.
No, Mankel, there are people who have like the weirdest basketball takes and are convinced LeBron James hasn't done. Come on, man. It's not that simple. We're always gonna have bad takes. Like, I don't think it's like a lack of respect for MMA. I mean, maybe that does exist, but I don't know if like that's the reason why Stephen A. Smith. I generally feel like, he reflects the kind of thinking that still exists in society today. There are a lot of men who have no problem beating women behind closed doors. I'm not saying that Stephen A. Smith is doing that, but no problem beating women behind closed doors. But God forbid they go on a stage, to mutually fight each other and make some money. And we covered this also in the Nat Wonder Girl interview, if you think about it, in terms of like the inequality that exists between like males, just all male sports and female sports. Like female
Which
sports.
Which is what I like about MMA is that it's relatively egalitarian when it comes to pay, spotlight. Actually, you know what? In comparison to the other ones, but
not really.
I don't know. Like I'm glad you brought this up because like simply put, Stephen A. It's not just a Stephen A. problem. It's a most of mainstream media problem. They don't educate themselves before they get on here. They get on the show and they look like fools, and thus they dumb down the masses, and unfortunately, they won't do that for basketball. Could you imagine if Stephen A. Smith said something stupid, like ridiculous, not like your usual run-the-mill LeBron James isn't very good stuff, but like something about
he's not.
You know, whatever. But you know, something like just outlandish, like what he said about women's MMA.
Guys, I just want to say that
it worked.
It worked. It worked.
We're talking about Stephen A. talking about this. Yeah, man. Like, let's talk about the fight that actually happened.
Let's just forget this fool and move on to more important topics. Like, hey guys, there was an incredible fight night last weekend.
I like Stephen A. Smith. He's a good.
Why?
Because I like him too. Because when he talks about what he knows, he's good.
Yeah, and he's good. He's decent at basketball, and he's good for casuals, and he brings a fresh and entertaining approach to, like, you know, sports media. The problem is, like, you know, people buy into
boxing, and
it's too much. Like, you know, anyway,
they spread them thin. They spread. That's another thing. They spread
another. Let's do a side pod on that, Mike.
Let's
do a side video.
You guys are so charitable to this guy that it's hilarious. This guy could like be found, you know, butchering a room full of babies, and you'll be like, Stefano, you know, he's a good guy, and he has, you know, he's not as good when he's butchering children. He's not as good when he's butchering infants. But do you know what? His basketball takes are good, and they have him spread too thin. They have him spread too thin. He shouldn't be doing the baby butchering. He shouldn't be doing the baby butchering. Like Mike is the king of, like, you know, these contrarian things.
Hold on.
Somebody does something. Somebody no. Hold on, Mike. Hold on.
That's such an illogical.
You can have your brain dead take later, Mike. You're gonna let me finish. So, anyway, Mike's the king. Mike's the king of, like, oh, someone did something terrible. Let's find out something contrarian to disagree with. Like, Herb Dean let someone get butchered in the middle of the cage. What about broadcast? Isn't that important, guys? Herb Dean and broadcasting. Oh, what about Stephen A. Smith? Like, you know, butchered a room full of babies?
I guarantee you didn't even see the full quote, and that's why you're like, oh, he said something horrible, right? First of all, because he did say something horrible. He did say something indefensible.
Guys,
what I'm trying to explain to you, and this is exactly what hardcore MMA fans do, right? They gatekeep the sport, so that when people inside their sport do the exact same thing or worse,
nothing with this guy can be an actual talk about the argument at hand. If it's about Herb Dean's terrible refereeing, it's about journalism being degraded. If it's about Stephen A. Smith's terrible takes, no, it's about gatekeeping in MMA. Mike, can we just have the discussion at hand about what the discussion's actually about?
I made
without getting onto all the things that
trigger you. I made a video on it. If you guys want to see it, I made a video on it, and I was probably even less charitable than you are right now.
Guys, check out the video Mike made, because he is making some quality content. And he's working around the clock to entertain you guys. If you don't go watch Mike's content, well, then you're scum. You're scum of the earth, and you know, off to the gallows with you. Anyways,
all right, let's talk the fights. Because very good fights.
Yeah, what a card. There were some shockers, there were some rockers, and there were some sock and boppers. And the main event for me, this was was it a shocker, rocker, or sock and bopper? Maybe a rocker.
I would say a shocker, honestly.
Bit of a
thought Overeem was going to be way more savvy in there. And, you know, on first watch, I was really critical. I'm not going to lie. I was like, what the hell is happening? But, like, rewatching it, it just looked like he was not ready for Volkov's power, man. And Volkov looked big also, like, bigger than I've ever seen him.
Thick.
Yeah.
Like that samurai face tattoo on his back looked like it was, you know,
scratched.
Yeah, it looked like it was a decal in the center of the cage. It was huge.
Have you seen? Did you see the difference between him versus Derek Lewis and him now? Like, it's two different guys.
That's what I'm
He's
saying.
taking his strength and conditioning seriously.
Yeah, he looks so lightweight. Not lightweight, but he looked like much skinnier back then. Overeem didn't even I wouldn't say like look bad. I mean, he didn't look great. I'm going to be honest. He didn't look like prime Overeem. He didn't even look like a winning Overeem, I would say. He didn't even look like, for example, the Overeem that faced Rosenstrike. But I expected a similar kind of fight. But for some reason, man, like even in the first 15 seconds, he got like peppered against the cage, and he's like shelling up, and he wants none.
He looked old. He looked old.
Yeah, that's the best way to say it.
His jab recognition from Volkov, like Volkov pumped that jab out, and Overeem did not pick up on it. For example, Overeem would throw that looping left overhand, and Volkov every time got inside position, hook, cross, hook. It was weird.
Was it just me, or did it look like, first of all, because I agree with your assessment of Overeem, and despite all those things, I still thought he looked dangerous. To me, it looked like, this still looked like a very dangerous Overeem that could have potentially, if let into the fight, won the fight with the tools that he's gained over his, 3 decades of combat sports experience. Now, what it looked like to me is that Volkov came so ready to address all of the dangers that Overeem had for him. He knew these traps were coming. It's like he'd played this video game before, and he was aware at every single stage which traps were going to be where. For example, he refused to get into these long, futile exchanges of just trading punches with Overeem up against the guard. Overeem wants you to do that so he can draw you into a clinch. Couple strikes, maybe a few to the body. He refused to overcommit on a lot of his shots and get into pocket range. When Overeem clinched him, he stayed patient and escaped. From range, he beat up Overeem, worked that cross left hook combination, and just found ways around the guard rather than just, battering it like waves against rocks. Like that front kick was there for him. The attritive weapons were there, and he just looked precise, dangerous. He looked aware.
But let me ask you, would not a prime Overeem per se, but like Overeem against Rosenstrike, I think would have picked up on a lot of these things. No,
you know what?
Okay.
I feel like Overeem started off wanting to do that in terms of having a more cerebral game, and you could tell like he was thinking before his shots. I'm not sure he threw a single combo shot in that entire fight. It was like one shot at a time. If I'm not mistaken.
A lot of overhands, a lot of left overhands from that southpaw
Yeah,
position.
a lot of like isolated leg kicks, like a lot of like weird body kicks as well. But yeah, no, I just felt like literally everything he said. Man, like,
To be fair,
a little bit of
analysis
throwing
of it.
himself out of position at times too, right? And it's honestly, it's hard to say how much of that is not wanting to open up, because Overeem's had success in his late career out of recognition for his limitations. He's leaned a lot more heavily on his grappling, which he was attempting to do, leaned a lot more heavily on the clinch work and zones where he can keep safe. Volkov just didn't let him into that. And to be honest, I don't know if I like Overeem at this stage of his career, throwing those long combinations and potentially, getting caught like he did in the Ngannou fight, right? Yeah, throwing himself out of position. I think I liked some of the things I saw for him. I just didn't think Volkov led him into this fight.
No, that's fair. Like Volkov looked real good.
I feel like they could. Sorry, Michael. I was going to say I feel like there could have been a balance, because I think like you're right. It doesn't make sense for him to be throwing like 5, 6, 7 punch kick combos, because he's just going to gas out, especially by the first. And he's going to get caught also because he doesn't have the speed that he once did. But I mean, like at a certain point, when you're getting picked apart by the longer, rangier fighter, you can't be going for like inside, like with like oblique kicks. Like, man, you're gonna have to switch it up and try to either like throw a couple double jabs and then go for the takedown or something. I'm not an expert in MMA, but I just feel like I didn't see. I wouldn't say diversity, because he did try to clinch, but as you said, Volkov didn't let him.
Volkov was not having it.
Yeah, I know wrestling isn't his game.
Like all day.
But you've been doing MMA for like what, 10, 15 years? Like, I'm sure you know how to double jab and shoot for a double takedown, like a double takedown. Like, I didn't see any of that.
And it's difficult to say, because the double leg never really been a strong part of Overeem's game. He's always, his takedowns, his wrestling has been excellent. He's always been more of a clinch kind of guy. But yeah, of course, I expected him to have a few more tools up his bag as well. I agree with that. Yeah.
Volkov looked good, man.
Volkov
Straight,
looked good.
long, hard punches.
No. I was gonna say another thing I noticed too was Overeem didn't trust his chin at all. Like the second Volkov did hit him with a left hook cross combo, Overeem got av dodge immediately, and I wonder if Overeem would have maybe been benefited from maybe like staying in the pocket a little longer to get those clinches, to get those takedowns.
No, man, he was getting pieced up. He was getting pieced up. And
at this advanced stage of his career, I'm going to say avoid prolonged exchanges like the plague. Like, man, if you know your chin isn't what it used to be, limit the exchanges. Try and dictate the exchanges on your own terms. And I think that's what he was trying to do and what he's done for a lot of his career. And I just don't think he was able to do it. Even with limiting the exchanges, Volkov just said, no, these are still going to take place on my terms.
And also, just Volkov was hitting way too hard. Like, I think, like,
that surprised me.
Overeem's defense was actually okay. Like, in terms of, like, the shelling up, his movement was okay. Like, you know, he was doing some things pretty well. But, like, man, Volkov was just...
Did Volkov power surprise you?
Stick in my memory. He was, like, stepping into the 1-2s. Like,
his power surprised me. His power surprised me because he's not known as a big hitter generally. Exactly. He has knockouts on his record, but...
Dude, he looks like Volkov. That's the thing, too. I don't want to disparage Volkov and be like, oh, Overeem did this and this and this, because Volkov looked massively improved.
This was not losing to me. This was not losing to Travis Hapa Brown or, you know, getting knocked out by Bigfoot Silva, where it's like he's winning and his chin fails him. You know, this was systematic, and that's what was scary about this.
Yeah. Although I don't know if this means bring on Volkov versus Blades too. But
I would not go that far.
Yeah,
maybe Volkov Jones. Maybe Volkov Jones.
No.
Maybe Volkov. Well, Cyril Gahn's got to fight.
Who's punching? Who's a puncher?
You know, why not? Why not the winner of Rosenstruik versus Gahn? Why not?
I would like to see that.
Why not?
Or maybe Derek Lewis rematch.
Yeah.
Why not? Although Lewis and Blades is rescheduled, right?
Yeah. There's interesting fights to be had. I wanted to make this point about Alistair Overeem before I forget, because, you know, kind of a lot of the narrative surrounding this fight where he's going for the UFC title. This is one last run to make it happen. And I've been an advocate for him retiring for a while. I know we all have. As dangerous as he is and as talented as he is, you know, he's one of the best to lace up gloves in a lot of regards. And I've loved him since, you know, I mean, I was watching. Yeah, before that, I loved him since Dream, right? Unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to watch him in Pride because I was too young back then. But I want to say this. A lot of these new school fans forget, and I'm not saying that adding a UFC title in this modern era to his resume wouldn't have been a massive accomplishment. It is. But like I said with DC, I kind of look at this part of his career like a bit of a postscript. I think that what matters as far as the competition he's faced. It matters as far as the names that you faced, and that is the only thing that gives credibility to the titles that you've won. I think the K1 Grand Prix Max title means every bit as the UFC heavyweight title when you look at who he faced to get there. I think his Dream title, when Dream absorbed a lot of the fighters that came out of Pride's monster heavyweight division, I think that means as much as a UFC heavyweight title. When he won the Strikeforce heavyweight title, and the Strikeforce heavyweights would go on to dominate thoroughly the UFC wouldn't have a homegrown champion for quite some time. We had up until Stipe, I believe, right? I think that means something too. So I hope he hangs up the gloves, but regardless of what happens at this point, I think he's had a storied career, and I think that a lot of people won't recognize it because it took place outside the UFC, but Overeem, one of the greatest combat sports athletes that we've had.
Yeah. Well,
two-sport athlete.
Yeah. How much of that is that Dana White controls kind of the Strikeforce library, and, you know, he'll kind of this is the problem. I don't want to make this a Dana White thing again, but like, you know how he is when other organizations guys come over, he kind of sweeps their past things under the rug, right?
Yeah.
And yeah.
He's great at brand management, right? The UFC is the brand, and the UFC title at this point confers so much legitimacy on you, as it should, because at this present time,
which I like, for the record, I really like.
Yeah, like that goes without saying. It's the most important title in combat sports is a UFC title right now, right?
Yeah.
At least, at the very least, in MMA. And
no disrespect, but it doesn't.
That wasn't always the case.
Yeah, sorry, man. I was just gonna say it doesn't really hold the same weight or water when the guy from ONE FC, Mike Trivello, is screaming, "Oh, this is the second best bantamweight fighter in the world."
I love David's 180 that he's done on ONE FC. I've been trying to get look, David, they're cringe. You know, they they take themselves way too seriously. It's like, oh my God, he's the greatest fighter. We have 700 million world champions, 300 billion viewers worldwide. Shinya Aoki at 57 years old, taking on this 12-year-old from Myanmar. Oh my God.
Hey man, but there's
stuff saying stuff like Shinya Aoki's so mean he could make a yeast infection cry. Like, what?
Wait, he did say that.
That is a good impression, man. That's a really good impression. I'm literally crying. That's really funny.
But you know what though? Someone's got to take him
back
seriously.
In the day too. Michael Chiavello was so good, and then he became a cartoon.
Right, it's kind of like who's that soccer announcer who used to like lose his mind when Messi would score? It's kind of like that, where he became a caricature of himself.
Yeah.
Oh man, good stuff.
David liked that.
That was really funny. That was really funny. I watched this last ONE FC card. Man, anyway, what did we get?
Fairtex lost. Yeah, I caught the highlights.
Wait, Stamp lost again?
Right.
She's like 22 or 23.
She's gonna be okay, but like I know we're talking about UFC, but it was just one of those where she's like, okay, I want to prove that I know that I've been working on my jiu-jitsu. She's been taking a lot of pictures with Nat Wonder Girl, putting them on Instagram about them doing jiu-jitsu. Anyway, she gets into these mad scrambles, caught, armbarred, finished. Like, come on, tapped. Not even armbar. It was like I'm pretty sure it was like a triangle even.
I think it was an arm lock. I'm trying to remember. She did.
It could
tap,
have been a triangle armbar maybe, or like a figure four arm lock.
I can't remember what it was. Important thing is she definitely tapped, and then afterwards comes out and says, pretends like, hey, I didn't tap. Like, no, sorry, Steph, you definitely tapped.
And I mean, I can understand the impulse tap because sometimes you're like, it goes on tight, and from hours of training, you want to tap a little earlier than later. So you're like, So she may have reactively tapped and not meant to, but like a tap is a tap, Yeah.
I didn't even think about that, but that's a good point. I had way more,
that happens.
Conspiracy theory.
Sorry, David, say that again. My headphones fell out.
I said I had way more deeper conspiracy theories than that, but we are going to swiftly move on before we get ourselves in trouble.
Deep conspiracy theories. David's going to go on about how, I'm not going to say that. That'll get me in trouble. But anyways.
Wow, you guys have restraint. I am so surprised.
I mean, some restraint about some things because we know better.
Restraint must be a Sarnia thing, Mike. Must be a Sarnia thing. Anyways.
That joke is not going to land unless people know the story.
We're not telling that story ever. Mike, it's a Sarnia thing, okay?
Do you guys want to talk about the next fight?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Rest in peace to my another one who like. Damn, what is with this card and putting the old legends out to pasture? Like, first of all, I liked Frankie Edgar's chances in this if this went over a longer period of time. I did. I thought he could incorporate wrestling into the mix, and if he could draw Sandhagen onto his takedowns, he could do pretty decently. Kick those legs. That shot would have knocked out a lot of people at bantamweight.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Corey Sandhagen is so good at that. He's so good at that flying knee, right? And he doesn't do it off the pump. He just kind of rises up and jumps. Like, I would love to see what Sandhagen's vertical is or his like exit velocity when he jumps is, because it's so interesting how he generates so much power from his kicks and his knees, right? And has a very slim frame doing it as well.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say, tough. This was a tough one to watch. Frankie Edgar, legend, obviously, but
stiff.
He looks. I mean, I don't even want to be that critical because if you think about it, in the first 15 seconds, he actually looked okay. He looked like he had head movement. He had a couple leg kicks. he was not landing, but he looked like aggressive at least. Like he looked like he wanted to take it to him. But I think in doing that, like he kind of played
Put
his
himself in
hand.
position. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And Sandhagen just like
I just don't know how many people could have had an answer for that flying knee when it landed because it was so fast.
So well timed. Yeah, he cold cocked him. He cold cocked him, as my man Jack Slack would say. You just get someone right off the bat when, there's no pattern recognition, there's nothing, and you just surprise them. And honestly, I don't think there's too much that can be read into as far as how good is Edgar still. We don't know, but we know that was a devastating flying knee and a high light reel knockout.
Man.
Incredibly timed by Sandhagen.
That knockout, like the impact was probably one of the toughest things to watch as an MMA fan. Like he was out cold.
Yeah.
Out cold, stiff arms,
Like,
head hit the ground, like
I've not seen a lot of those. Like
Dude,
where a guy literally falls like head first, like out cold.
It's one of the few times I
Even like the
looked at a
Masvidal,
knockout.
Askren one wasn't really like that.
Yeah.
At least for me, anyway. Sorry, go on.
No, it's just one of the few times I saw a knockout, and maybe it's because I like Frankie Edgar a lot. I know I don't show it, but I like him a lot, and it's one of the few times a knockout, like I didn't go, oh, I kind of just bowed my head.
So you want to know a funny story? As much as hilariousness can be had in this terrible like result, I don't want to add levity to it, but like the fight before this just finished, and my dog starts whining to go out. I'm like, Boomy, really? Like, seriously? You're gonna ask to go out now before the Frankie Edgar fight? I'm like, all right, okay, hold on. I take him out. I'm like, I'll take him out right now. And he doesn't want to poop. He's just like walking around, just like, oh, I'll sniff out the exact perfect spot. This patch of grass? Oh, not quite. About 2 inches to the left. Not really. Like, I'm a connoisseur of grass pooping, right? And I'm like, gotta get inside, dude. Hurry up and poop, because I know if I bring him back in, he's just gonna cry to go back down again. So I come back. He takes a ridiculously long time to poop. I come back in, open the door, and I just see my girlfriend like this. Like, head in her hands, just like devastated. I'm like, what's wrong? Like, what happened? I'm like, like I don't know what's going on. And then I look at the screen and I just see like the replay of Frankie Edgar laid out stiff. I'm like, oh my Lord. How long was I gone for? Like, I'm like, how long was the fight? She's like, about 25 seconds. I'm like, holy shit. And like, she's a big Frankie fan. I've been a big Frankie fan since his lightweight title run. Devastated, man.
Everyone likes Frankie, man.
Everyone
it's
likes
weird.
Frankie.
He says like 2 words and everyone loves Frankie.
But at the same time, like, this is a conversation for another time in terms of back in my old day arguments of new school versus old school fighters and, new skill sets versus old skill sets. But man, I don't know.
Here's the thing. I really do think, and I still maintain this, Frankie has a skill set that can translate. Fairly modern, and I think given the right opportunities, he could make his way to a title. Maybe not win it against Jan.
Look, he beat
but certainly
Pedro
make his
Munoz.
way to a title at 35. How would this fight have gone had it played out a little longer? I really don't know. We'll never get to find out. But I don't think his skill sets are necessarily outdated. Is his chin what it used to be? I don't know. Probably not. But I think that shot would have knocked out a lot of people.
I was about to say, like, you can't find me one person, like, in that division.
Now, keep in mind, Frankie is the man who used to have, the Iron Chin, who Gray Maynard threw halfway across the octagon, and he just,
I was about to say, he had like the record for most fights without knockdown or something, or knockout, or something like that. Like it was.
Frankie?
I don't want to be too critical, but what would you say is Frankie Edgar's number one attributes?
Number one attribute?
Skill set, not like heart or like determination. None of that.
I would say it would be his ability to bait people onto takedowns is phenomenal. He's able to he's phenomenal on with his like marching combinations when he comes forward. He does a good job of drawing you forwards and then throwing good like hook uppercut hook type combinations, finishing on a leg kick. And then he's good about blitzing when you don't mind your P's and Q's. He's good about getting you to chase him and then finishing with a takedown. So I would say he's a really good all-rounder that in a very different way from GSP, but he's very, very good at drawing you onto takedowns and throwing you out of your game. And
I just feel like his stand-up. So you say he's a wrestler because I feel like in this.
he's an all-rounder. He's an all-rounder. I wouldn't say he's a wrestler. I would say he's an all-rounder, and he's someone who, when all components of their games are allowed to work fluidly, he's phenomenal. When he's allowed to punch in combination, and then use that to set up takedowns, that's when he's at his best.
Do you feel like modern MMA fighters are going to allow a Frankie Edgar to punch in combination?
Well, he beat Pedro Munoz, so like they have, right?
In a very competitive fight with Munoz. Yeah, I think here's what I think. I think Frankie Edgar has a skill set that would work against a lot of modern fighters. I think he made his way down to 135 a little too late. I think his skill set won't. I think modern MMA fighters at 155 won't tolerate his skill set. I think for a while he was levels ahead of a lot of the game, and then I think the game started slowly catching up to him. Not in the sense that his skills fell behind, but other people began to modernize and figure out a lot of these tools as well. And I think that he was able to do it at such a size disadvantage for so long, but I think eventually.
Well, also the guys got bigger too. Like Gray Maynard, I remember when people were talking about Gray Maynard being a big lightweight, and like what's Gray Maynard, like 5'9"? Like,
I mean, you can have a big you can have a big 5'9". We had Benson Henderson. He fought as well. Bendo's no small lightweight.
Yeah. Sandhagen's like 5'11" though. And isn't Sean O'Malley a 135er if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, and he's like 6 feet.
Yeah, but they're rail thin, not rail thin, but you know what I mean. Like they're not thick like a Benson Henderson.
Yeah, no.
Bendo's.
Ben
used to say he had running back legs.
Yeah, Bendo was big. But yeah, no, like I just think that like the size of the guys nowadays, like Habib's my size, like Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, like I think
Giblert Burns was at 155 until not too long ago.
Yeah, and he's huge. Again, my size, like guy. So.
Yeah. And then in our Coco main event, a very odd fight when it was announced, an odd fight when it took place. We have
such thing as a Coco main event.
Coco main event is what people like me say to feel good about themselves when they don't get the main or co-main event. That's Michael Johnson, Clay Guida.
This made me sad.
This made me so sad.
This made me sad.
Can I just say that Michael Johnson is going to be remembered as having one of the weirdest careers of all time. I know I've said this ad nauseum the past week, but this man has knocked out Dustin Poirier, beat Tony Ferguson, and lost to Jonathan Brookins and Clay Guida.
Got dominated by Clay Guida, by the way.
Before we even get into Michael Johnson, just shout out to Clay Guida, who is just doing his thing, man. He just goes out there and he's a professional, beats who he needs to do, beats who he needs to beat, and just like does his thing. In the first round, after the bell rings, he's just like, you know what, this is my night. And he literally like nods and like, this guy hasn't got anything for me. But like, man, the fall of Michael Johnson, man. Like,
historic.
Crazy.
Historic.
Dude, after that Habib fight, he has not been the same.
I just real quickly, some notable wins as well that he has on his record. He also beat Edson Barbosa. I didn't remember that.
Oh my God, that happened. Prime Edson Barbosa too.
Hurt Khabib at one point. Yeah. What else? Odd career to say the least. Wow, he fought James Krause back in the day. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I really don't know. Well, I know what it is. He's getting older. But he was never, that's the thing though. He was never strong, right? Like he was never like a strong guy. He beat guys based on the fact he was he was a very speedy guy and he had power in his hands, specifically his left.
You want to know something funny? Yeah, exactly. Do you want to know something funny?
That's the part that I'm confused about.
Remember when he came off The Ultimate Fighter? Did you guys see that season? That's what he was in his early career. Michael Johnson was a straight-up wrestler. Like, that fight between him and Jonathan Brookins was one of the, less entertaining fights that I've seen because it was kind of like a boring wrestling match against the fence. But
no, like, I'm not saying he's a bad grappler. I'm just saying he was never – but even then, he was
but that was his thing. That was his bread and butter is what I'm saying. And then he learned to strike under Henry Hooft.
Like, I feel like we keep talking about his hands, but if I'm not mistaken, he came out like a wrestler He had lightning fast hands also.
That was his thing. Yeah,
that was his thing. And
but like the thing is, his wrestling game was
on the
actually
feet.
quite like he broke people down though. That was the thing about his wrestling game. He wasn't like that's why he was kind of boring because like he would start in the clinch, then he'd pummel like it was a very pummel game and like it wasn't like he would shoot, you know? And if he did shoot, it would be like to set something up after.
But he's not even doing that right now. The strength disadvantage was crazy, man.
Yeah,
like, it was crazy. And
he looked out muscled.
Clay Guida looked like in like I don't want to say 10 times. It's tough to like quantify these things, but he looked in much better shape. Let's just call it as it is. Like he looked in much better shape than Michael Johnson.
Guida weaponized pace as he always did. He didn't let didn't let Johnson. Johnson, I think, especially, and I feel a lot of southpaws kind of feel victim to this. They're used to a lot of people kind of hanging back and playing that. I'm going to throw my cross, you're going to throw my cross type game, that very patient, very sharpshootery type game. And Guida didn't let him have that. Guida was throwing overhand rights, rushing into clinches, hitting him with the weird knees to the body, just weaponizing pace. Not really when he got caught on the end of Johnson's punches, he wasn't really stopping and taking a minute to reassess. He was just go this entire fight.
Yeah, I was gonna say that Guida. At one point, I'm pretty sure Guida. I need to go back and see which round it was, but I'm pretty sure Guida threw like maybe 4 or 5 straight rights in a row, and like no overhand rights in a row, and literally like Michael Johnson didn't do a thing. Like,
but what's
no
weird?
Disrespect to Michael Johnson, it's just like where is like the top quality fighter? That I don't want to be too critical because he knows what's going on in the background. But
when you shoot with him, he's dangerous. But like.
But this was a guy who took Justin Gaethje, at least in the first round, to a place.
Hell.
Yeah. He took him to a place that honestly not very many people can do. So I don't know, man. Like, the other thing too is where was his power?
Like literally, man. Like the whole thing was he has speed, he has power, he can wrestle. There was literally none of. I mean, there was a little bit of speed in the opening round. Like I'd give him that one, but there was no power. There was no wrestling. He was out wrestled the entire time. There was no grappling. He was out grappled the entire time. He was outboxed, which is crazy to say. Like he was doing okay on the stand up, but like he was getting outboxed by Clay Guida. And no disrespect, but Clay Guida's technique. Like, come on.
No, I was about to say, you're getting outboxed by Clay, but think about that for a second.
Man.
Think about that for a second. No, I love Clay Guida. I love Clay Guida. Yeah, Clay Guida. I love him. Right?
The guy's hair is in his face. Like, come on, G. You're getting boxed out by the guy's hair is in his face.
Dog, that's the thing. I love Clay Guida, but Clay Guida and technical, come on.
Not the same. They're not in the. They shouldn't be in the same sentence. Except Clay Guida is not technical.
But wait, hold on. Clay Guida is not technical in what sense?
Is he measured? Like his boxing.
Yeah, he's not a great boxer, but that's not his style.
No, that's what I'm saying. But
his style is he takes you to a deep end.
Michael Johnson, a couple nights or on, in the fight. Like
I think Stefano did make a good point though. Like that whole thing about like as a southpaw, I can attest this. Sometimes when a guy can throw you off when they're giving you a pace that you're not necessarily used to, right?
True.
Like I felt. Look, I'll right hand on the Bible. It happened to me once. Like so,
Johnson was gassed. Johnson was gassed, man, and yeah, it was like after the first round, Guida could smell it, man. He was just like, this guy doesn't have anything for me, which makes me really concerned because I keep asking this question, but where do you go if you're losing to Clay Guida if you're Michael Johnson? Like, no disrespect to Clay Guida,
it's difficult. It might be time, and I say this with all due respect to Michael Johnson, it might be time because clearly he still has some skills. He's not being finished left and right necessarily by bad stoppages. Maybe take a step outside.
Josh Emmett didn't he almost beat Josh Emmett too? So like,
yeah, I think maybe take a step outside the UFC and use that name value. You're Michael freaking Johnson, man. Use that name value. Headline some cards outside the UFC. You can do very well for yourself in ONE or Risen. Have some very entertaining fights. I don't think there's anything wrong with that because I don't think he's getting anywhere near a title. But at the same time, I still think he has a lot to offer the combat sports world. One thing I just wanted to say, as far as fighting somebody with that kind of pace, and Clay Guida, who still has a chin at this advanced stage of his career, very good one. Man, if you can't hit hard and you're fighting a fighter that keeps that pace, and you can't use your power as a deterrent, and Michael Johnson obviously can hit hard, but not known as like a big one-punch KO hitter. If you can't hit hard, you better be on your bicycle, man. Young fighters out there, if you don't have power, that kind of power as a deterrent, and you'll know if you have that, Hajimino Ippo power. If you don't have that, then you better move those damn feet. You better cut some angles, man.
Nice reference. Nice.
Fair. I feel
you like the Hajimino Ippo.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys have your weird anime thing.
I'm gonna watch an episode tonight.
David's a closet anime fan. He's gonna go home and watch. David's one of those guys who watches probably the obscure animes that me and Mike wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. He's gonna hang up this call and go watch Food Wars. I bet.
I love. Wait, like.
No, he's talking about the.
Did you just say you love Food Wars?
Like the Food Network?
No, he's not talking about the same Food Wars. They're different.
Mike, did you just say you love Food Wars?
David said it, but he's not talking about the same Food Wars. He's talking about Food Wars on Cooking Channel, not the anime.
The one that has a squid molesting a 14-year-old girl in the first 15 minutes.
Oh. Dog, dude, this is why I didn't like. I have such a issue with anime at this point. Like, I'm so like. All right, anyway.
It's like okay, come on, really?
Yeah,
really.
Like why? But anyway,
what's the point? Is this satire? Like, if it's satire, it's going over my head.
So I saw that, I turned it off. I was like, God.
Okay, so do you guys want to talk about the next fight, the Pantoja versus Cape? I've never even heard of this Cape dude.
Manel Cape?
I can tell you. Yeah, I never heard him pronounce Cape, but he came out of. I heard it pronounced Cape, and then everyone's like Cap. DC's like Manel Cap. Like, I'm like, what? Okay.
You're capping, bro. Like, we're capping about Manel Cape's skills.
So this guy was from Risen, highly touted prospect, and as you saw, for good reasons, right? He took Alejandro Pantoja to a split decision.
UD. It was a UD.
It was a UD. Oh, it was a UD. Okay, sorry. I was thinking of the Dariush fight. Okay, he took him to a decision, fought a very competitive fight, showed an interesting karate stance. Just a little bit about his background. This guy stopped, albeit a little bit controversially, Ian McCall in Risen, knocked out Kai Asakura, who's
overrated.
Shut up.
Okay.
Who's one of the premier fighters over in Japan, and did it in such a way that he showed some very, very legitimate skills, drawing out Asakura and countering him, forcing the fighter to be offensive and countering him. He looked precise in this fight. He looked good. A man who's usually a wild man. Could have used a little more volume, admittedly, but Pantoja
I think that's the problem.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's interesting to hear you say that he's a wild man, because I've never heard of him, anything at all. And I found in this fight he had a lot of almost like Adesanya-ish kind of stuff with the face and the feints and the tricks and the dancing. None of the effectiveness.
My thing was sorry. I was just gonna say my thing was maybe he got the UFC jitters. Like a lot of guys with like a big name like Pettis. It happened to Pettis.
I didn't even see that though. Like, it wasn't like he was scared. It looked like he was having fun, but it was almost like he took like the mind games too far. Maybe. And not like forgot to hit, but like just assumed like because he was outfoxing the guy, like it was obvious to the viewer that he was winning, but it wasn't. Like, Pantoja looked like the more aggressive fighter, and even if he wasn't landing as much, like, he looked like he was in the fight. So
for future reference, that's called Bobby Green syndrome. When you think you're like winning the fight based on taunting and being defensively good.
Shout out Bobby Green, man. Don't do that.
No, he used to do that a lot. Yo,
because I love me some Bobby Green.
Classic Bobby Green thing, when the other guy's hand gets raised.
Also a really good and measured voice in these trying times. But anyways, yeah, Cop didn't look like he did quite enough, and it was a good fight, and man, I was entertained. It was high level. But Pantoja just outvolumed him. Pantoja outworked him, and Cape was a cop, I guess. Kind of seemed like he thought in those exchanges when Pantoja would initiate and then he would counter with a straight, and Pantoja would just eat the shot and keep coming and land 3 or 4 for his trouble afterwards. And sometimes that one shot will be enough to deter someone. Sometimes it won't be, and if it's not, you got to keep working in combinations. And Cobb just got. If you're the busier guy, even if you're not landing every shot, it's going to look good on the judges' scorecards, especially if you're not visibly hurting anyone.
Yeah.
Especially at flyweight, man. Like you're not like not to say you're not knocking anyone out, but like if you're not knocking someone out with a one shot, like one hitter quitter, then yeah, you're gonna want some volume. You're gonna want to show something.
But that's what makes Davidson Figueiredo so like weird and such a good, because he does have that one hitter power, but he can do this over a 5-round stretch to a reasonable degree, right? But that's not saying Manel Kape or Cape can't do it.
It's his first fight, right?
Yeah.
It's his first fight in the UFC, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, in the UFC. So
and he fought a top 5 ranked guy, and didn't look outclassed. So
he's gonna be just fine. If anything, it almost like he looked like he was not like toying with his food, because that's disrespectful to Pantoja, but it looked like he was playing around in there a little bit too much. Because, I feel like if he was like a little bit more like zoned in, like he could have really messed him up.
Too much show, not enough go. Also, does Alejandro Pantoja have the best nickname in all of MMA? I love it. The Cannibal.
How
is that the best nickname?
Not bad.
I love it.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
It's not the best nickname in all of it.
Alejandro.
For a while, Soldier of God really got me. I like Soldier of God.
I love Soldier of God.
Of course you did, Mike. The People Champ.
Or what is
You say this for me?
Thiago, what's his name? Thiago Santos' name.
Oh, Maheta or something like that?
Yeah.
Maheta. That's sick.
Yeah. The Hammer.
I didn't mind Borrachino either. The Eraser.
Nah.
Yeah, pretty solid.
All I got to say is we don't need another Pitbull, for the love of God.
Oh, my God, yeah. Always.
Okay.
But
this fight was interesting, though. The next fight.
Oh,
I really want to get to this one.
Talk about versus Ferreira.
Can I talk about some high-level grappling that
by the
took
way,
place?
Stefano, before you do, Danny sends a message of saying that Beneil Dariush is overrated. Go, please.
Well, Danny, I'd just like to say that, I was going to say you're overrated, but you're not. You're a 5-star gentleman. But I'm hurt and deeply shocked that you would speak that way about my boy Beneil Dariush. What a display of grappling. Do I think his striking can be a little sloppy at times? Sure. World champion black belt? Anyone? Nobody has beat Ferreira like that. Nobody. Because usually Ferreira's the guy putting pressure on you. Usually he's the guy who says, I've got this revolver in my back pocket and I'm not afraid to use it. And you're going to back up this entire fight because if I get you to the ground, you're going to sleep. Quite simply. Beneil Dariush said, well, I've got a bigger gun in my back pocket, and was not afraid to pursue the wrestling, which I thought was a smart move. Pursue the wrestling.
To Ferreira's credit, though.
He looked good.
He came back.
when he worked, oh my God, when he threw up, I was losing my mind. When he threw up that the calf slicer attempt from the what was it? Was it the De La Riva guard, and he went to the calf slicer. Yeah. I'm losing my mind. I'm like, oh! And then Dariush hit the step over pass. Oh my God, that was so sick. He hit the step over pass from that. It's
crazy what jiu-jitsu can do when you have punching and striking involved. It's crazy what it can look like, eh? Because
it was so fun. It was such a good display of passing, and oh my God.
Oh wow, I did not have that experience watching this fight.
Well, David, that's because that's because you know about as much about jiu-jitsu as I know about particle physics.
So none.
Yes.
None at
all.
That's
what I was inferring.
Hilarious. Yeah, I thought Dariush looked actually pretty good. I was surprised he had so much power in his hands. It looks like he's been working on his boxing or his stand-up a lot. He looks significantly improved from a couple of years ago, where it was basically a non-entity and it was this guy is just going to try and take you down. But now I'm really excited for what he could do in the division if he actually starts.
Dude, I'm just shocked. I'm shocked. I didn't have Beneil Dariush winning this fight at all. I thought this was going to be Cesar Ferreira's coming out party.
Ferreira can strike.
Yeah.
You just
I
call
thought
him
this was
Caesar
gonna be
Fajeda?
No, Diego, right?
You called him Caesar Fajeda.
I said Diego. Why would
I
I
heard
call him
Caesar.
Pardon?
I heard Caesar. I don't know who it is.
Guys, why we stressing the little things? All right, let's like this fight.
Hilarious.
God.
I thought Diego Ferreira, honestly, in my opinion, I was expecting a little bit more, just because, honestly, he just has a high number next to his name, so I just assumed that he would be at least better than Dariush on the feet. But it didn't turn out that way, and I'm honestly surprised it went split decision, because I thought Dariush was pretty clearly the winner of that fight, in my opinion.
I wouldn't say thoroughly, but
That surprised me too. I did not think he deserved it. This deserved a split decision.
I agree, but I wouldn't say thoroughly. I do think Ferreira did have moments, and I can see an argument for round 3. I don't know any other round though.
Yeah, maybe 3.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I can see an argument for 3 though. You'd have to convince me for 1 and 2, but like maybe they saw something we didn't. Like again, they're getting one angle mid-fight. It's a crappy angle too, I'd add. Like they should definitely be able to get some monitors down there. But I thought it was a great fight.
Dude, how about the omoplata attempt in the second round? And then Fajeda hops over and goes to take the back. Holy shit. The elbows from within guard. Also, David, to your comment about his striking look, thinking it'd be a bit better. I think Fajeda's striking is best when he's on the front foot chasing you down. And I think Dariush is largely the same. I think to his credit, Fajeda was able to hit a couple of good counter knees, and when Dariush got a little overexcited. But then again, Dariush hit him with that knee in the first round. Remember that? Oh, my God. Yeah, I don't know. I love this fight thoroughly. I think if there's one cause for concern for Dariush's future that I saw, is that he needs to be a little bit more patient. And sometimes he gets lured into brawls. Sometimes he'll throw shots that aren't there and throw himself out of position.
Yeah, I was gonna say he wasn't very responsible in this fight though. But like that's the thing. He wasn't responsible against Jakar Close, and he wasn't responsible against Holtzman. So
because he doesn't respect you though. Like I can see Stefano's point of worst case you knock him down, it gets to the floor, and now you're playing his game. Or worst case he overcommits. I mean, maybe he trusts his chin that much because I can imagine against like a Justin Gaethje, for example, like that. Like, you're not going to be able to play the pressure game against Justin Gaethje. Or even like a Dustin Poirier, who is going to soak up your pressure and counter you in a way that you're not going to like on the feet. And you're not going to be able to take him down like that. But
yeah, with this level of recklessness, I don't exactly like his chances against either of those opposition unless he pulls guard against Justin Gaethje. But he's a fun fighter nonetheless.
Yeah.
I think...
And he's on a run.
He's on a run. I have a few questions about his chin because he's getting wobbled in every single fight that he's in. But fun fighter nonetheless for as long as he's here. And if he could be a little more measured in these exchanges, and it's hard to say because a lot of his fights he wins based on aggression. But I think to be a little bit more calculated in that aggression, I would appreciate that.
But know what? Post Edson Barbosa fight, he did try to be a little more calculated, and it didn't exactly work for him. So this new version of him is old Dariush, but he's backing off of it just a hair, where he's getting you with some of these sneaky punches and sneaky strikes, right? And yeah, he still has the grappling. So I was just really surprised that he had this game plan against Ferreira. And it worked.
Yeah, excellent fight. I'm trying to think of some other grappling highlights. How about when Fajeda went deep half guard and Beneil Dariush, Beneil Dariush countered and started throwing those hammer fists from that position. Excellent work from within guard. Just, man. David, I'm serious, buddy. Go on BJJ Fanatics. I'm sure they got some instructionals now. I think Bernardo Faria is giving away a free instructional. Get some basics of jiu-jitsu in, and then come talk to me and rewatch this fight, man. You're missing out on gold.
I couldn't. Yeah, no, I'd have to rewatch. I've only watched the fight once, and
high-level
it's been months since I've done any kind of jiu-jitsu. So I've forgotten all of it and had no appreciation for what I was watching.
But what was crazy though? It wasn't just positional stuff and transitions like it was like a IBJJF contest. It was, like MMA suited high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu transitions. They were hitting each other. They were using strikes to then do technical Jiu-Jitsu passes. It's what I think the Gracies intended when they kind of brought Jiu-Jitsu to the forefront, to an extent, right? So,
Cool. Cool.
So we've got one more fight here on the main card, and I think other than that, there's definitely a prelim I want to talk about, a certain Timur Valiev, because he looked really quite supple. Anyways,
succulent. He looked succulent.
Is it supple?
He did look supple, if I'm honest, supple and warm and succulent. But we have a final fight, the light heavyweight contest between Slow Mike Rodriguez and Danilo Marquez, who I hadn't actually heard of coming into this fight.
Remember we were going to get Slow Mike Rodriguez on the show, and then somehow it just didn't work out?
Yeah, he ghosted us.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, Slow Mike. Maybe he looked at our viewers and the followership, and it was like, actually,
Mike, Slow Mike, I love you, buddy. But you can still come on the podcast even if you don't love us.
Yeah, man. Even if
he's a fun guy. He's a fun guy.
He's a mushroom.
I said he's a fun guy.
Mushroom. Anyways, impressions of this fight, gentlemen?
None.
Right? I never heard of this Danilo Marquez guy, to be honest.
I mean, me neither. I'm looking at his fights. He fought Kadis Ibragimov on the Adesanya card. He won that. And then that was his only other fight in the UFC. He had some good jiu-jitsu, I thought. Very much more positional-based style, and I had some questions over whether he was going to gas going into the second round or not. Not a ton of punches from the top, but more of just a positional pass and control style of jiu-jitsu. Yeah. What's to say about that?
I was going to say, is it kind of a Daniel Pineda situation, except on a lesser extent where, you just came in and kind of schooled an established guy like Slow Mike?
Is Slow Mike an established guy? Would you say that?
No.
I don't know.
I don't know that I'd say established.
I'd say Slow Mike is still establishing himself.
Slow Mike, he has not yet been established, no. He has a few fights in the UFC, more than I thought, but lost to Devin Clark, win against Adam Milstead, who I don't know. And then we have a loss to Daun Jung, who I believe is the one that fought Sam Alvey. Then a win against Marcin Prachnio, and then now 2 losses straight. So I don't know that he's
Although that Ed Herman loss, I mean, let's be honest with each other.
It's an odd one. Probably didn't deserve to go down that way. Oh, and a no contest in between that to John Allen, whoever. Anyways, any fights on the prelims you want to highlight? I know there was one little sensuous number.
Osborne, knockout, Jamaican dude. He looks like he could be decent, so watch out for him.
Yeah. On my end, Yusuf Zalal took an L.
Wait,
So
again?
Yeah, he took an L.
Yo, let's actually never hype any of these dudes ever again. Because I feel like every time we pick a guy that we like, what was the other guy we liked?
The Korean gentleman looked good against him.
Yeah.
Much stronger. Much stronger.
Well, no, didn't Yusuf Zalal beat just something? What was his name? Something Taha. But he beat Taha, and then this is his loss off of that. No.
Let's see. Didn't Yusuf Zalal have a loss coming off of this? I swear he did. Yeah. He lost to Ilir Tuporia. And then before that, went against Pierre Barrett, went against Jordan Griffin, went against Austin Lingo. He took this fight on 2 weeks' notice. So make that of what you will.
The fighter I was thinking of is Munir Lazzez, another fighter that we've hyped up in a similar way.
I remember hyping up Armin Azaitar before he had his moment.
You Moroccan? I think all 3 of these gentlemen are Moroccan as well.
Yeah, I think we just have such faith.
We love you, Morocco, but geez, can you throw us a bone every once in a while, please?
You know what it is? We're all kickboxing fans. That's the problem. We're all kickboxing fans.
By the way,
Morocco's rich history in
Tunisia, not Morocco. That's highly offensive. I'm joking. I don't know. No, he is from Tunisia, but I don't know if that's highly offensive or not.
Well, David, I find your correction of me highly offensive. You will not do it again.
Okay, guys, do we have any more thoughts on this week? It's getting late. I know we have 11 fighters who got dropped from the UFC this week.
I very quickly, before we talk about that, I thought Timur Valiev looked phenomenal. Excellent takedowns, punishing low kicks. I thought Those snatch singles look gorgeous. He had this one transition that I just wanted to spotlight, which I think was one of my favorite transitions of the night, where he went for a knee slice pass. He was landing ground and pound from half guard, went for a knee slice pass, and gave up the underhook. Martin Day took the underhook, and then he stepped back for the saddle position to go for the heel hook. Day recognized it, and then used that to pass into mount with another knee slice pass, and then just started pounding away, and that was gorgeous. So 11 fighters cut. Yeah, let's look at these. Who got cut?
Okay, I know that Vanessa Mello was one of those people. I actually kind of liked her. Maybe, for aesthetic reasons as opposed to actually.
Yeah, because she's cute. Stop.
Yeah, and she's one of those rare bigger women fighters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's fair.
Vanessa Mello. Oh shit, that sounds so familiar.
She's Brazilian. She's done a bunch. I mean, her fights are not.
If her nickname isn't Yellow, like Vanessa Mello Yellow, then stop. I don't want no part of it.
Hilarious. Okay, Antonio Carlos Jr.
They cut her off of a win.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
She had 3 losses and then a win.
They probably just looked at the body of work and said, nah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, let's see. So we've got her off of a win. Okay, let's pull this up. Shoeface is cut.
Yeah, Antonio Carlos Jr., Peter Barrett, Spike Carlisle, Anthony Ivy.
Wait, hold on a second. They cut Spike?
Sure. Reese McKee, who I actually know. Carlton Minnis.
Spike Carlisle. Okay, Carl Minus. Vinicius Pereira.
Moraz, who lost to Vanessa Mello. Vinicius Moreira, who I think I know.
Sarah Moraz should have been cut a long time ago, let's be honest.
Marcus Perez, who's actually a regular.
I remember that fight. Yeah. Oh, she's awful. Okay. Her and Sarah Moraz on that card. On that Calvin Cater card.
I distinctly remember all you did on that fight, because I think we watched that fight together. I distinctly remember you bad-mouthing that fight.
Oh, it was terrible. It was one of the worst displays of lack of technique I've seen. Sarah Moraz just circling the cage in one direction, ki-ing on every missed strike, and then Vanessa Mello slowly sliding across the cage and missing. What a disaster.
I felt to them, man.
I felt like Brock. I felt like Brock Lesnar when he was like, "I watched the heavyweight disasters. Magumba's a piece of shit."
Hold on. Don't disparage Brock Lesnar. He did not call him a Magumba. He did not call him
Magumba's a piece of shit, and Guy used to be Steopic's a piece of shit.
No.
Reese McKee is the
gentleman who got destroyed by Hamza Chimaev.
Skeletor. Yeah, okay, so that's understandable. Sorry, there's
Marcus Perez, the guy who dresses like the Joker.
Couple tough losses. Cool gimmick, but I mean, ultimately,
he has a cool style.
Yeah, but the thing about his style though is he's imitating and not actually.
Oh, Vinicius Moreira. Yeah, I think a lot of these are expected cuts. He's 4 in a row. He had that fight with Isaac Villanueva, which looked like it was a regional fight.
Damn.
That's harsh.
Honestly, some of these Contender Series people disappointing.
But see, this is why I think the UFC and the Ultimate Fighter, when it comes back, is still going to be A1 for bringing guys in, because they look at these guys, they try them out over a series of fighters. They can actually take a look at some of their skills and not have them come in based on getting lucky, right? That isn't to say that the Contender guys that come in aren't good. There's some guys who've had success.
Come on, Michael. You're fighting on the Contender Series. Don't disown the Contender guys.
No, I'm not disowning it. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying the lights are on bright. There's some guys, lights are on bright. You're hungry. It's there for you. You're facing another guy, and then all of a sudden you get the right matchup for your kind of style.
Yeah.
Look at Roosevelt Roberts, for example. He looked like a world beater on Contender Series, and
I'll say this as well. I think the system of selecting fighters based on who has success in the Contender Series is a little bit flawed. They're looking to sign people who produce excellent, flashy results. And sometimes that's a result of a good matchup, like you said. Sometimes that's the result in a massive skill differential. Sometimes that's a result of, sometimes
you fight the fight of your life. Yeah.
Sometimes excellent fighters aren't exciting. Sometimes I've seen examples where guys will have a dominating decision win, and Dana White's like, well, I don't like that. I like finishes, and at a high level of MMA against tough opposition, sometimes finishes aren't always produced. I think it's
or sometimes you don't have a style conducive to it, right?
Yeah, like I think it's clear that the Ultimate Fighter is a good system for producing contenders and champions. Like I could go through a laundry list of champions, current UFC champions and modern era champions that came off of the Ultimate Fighter, right? Contender Series, jury's still out. There's a few stars that are produced off of it, but I think a lot of,
Man.
there's
a lot of one. Who are the stars from it? Like Sean O'Malley. Who else? Like I can't think of one.
I think there's a few. Okay, we've got.
Isn't Kevin Holland?
Kevin Holland.
Joaquin Buckley.
Hands of Stone. The guy who fought Wonder Boy recently. I believe he was off the Contender Series.
Oh, Jeff Neal. Yeah, I think he's a Contender Series guy.
Really?
Yeah. So there are some good people.
It can work. I think just the problem is again, like sometimes, like look. Every once in a while, people fight the fight of their lives against someone who might not be as good, and you're getting a matchup that might not, like I'm just saying it's not always the problem, and you're going based off of one fight. It's not like a tournament setting where they bring you back and then you're fighting another fight, and you're going off of one fight, one look against another guy who, and again, fighting is a weird thing where there's an invisible skill difference. You can't really tell sometimes, between like X and Y, right? Unless you have it together.
So there's a couple of, I'm just going to rattle off a couple of names because there's some decent talent that's been produced off of Contender Series. Let's see. We've got Boston Salmon, pretty decent fighter. Sean O'Malley, Casey Kenny. Carl Robertson, pretty decent fighter. Jeff Neal, Alonzo Manyfield.
Don't talk to me about that guy. Carl
Robertson. Nah, we're not letting you get Carl Robertson now.
Yeah, don't talk to me about that guy.
Okay, Dan Ige.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Dan Ige is legit.
Let's see. Brendan Davis, decent fighter. Mike Rodriguez. Julio Arce, excellent fighter. Alex Perez, challenge for the title. Ricky Simone. So these are some good names we have here. Not too shabby. Jordan Espinoza. Matt Frivola.
Not many champions in that list, though. Ultimate Fighters has consistently produced champions.
Yeah, that's true.
And some would even say the model of taking or just swallowing up another smaller organization is an even more successful model of breeding champions or bringing champions.
Oh no, don't get me wrong. I'm not in any way not saying you're right, but I also think I think the truth of the Contender Series is though that it's a flawed system to get guys, but it's not necessarily means that you're not going to get good guys.
Edmund Shabazian, he's pretty good. Jimmy Crute. Sadiq Youssef, Contender Series vet. Okay, so there's some good guys. No champions. But you know what? I'm with Mike. It's not that we're never going to have good talent off of the Contender Series because it's definitely more of
I completely forgot. Sorry to
quantity approach.
Yeah, battle testing. You can be as you said, you just have more opportunities to prove yourself. And I think you made a good point, Stefano, about the nature of Dana White Contender Series versus the Ultimate Fighter. Ultimate Fighter is more like a competition, almost like tournament style, as close to a pure tournament as we're ever going to get in the UFC. Dana White Contender Series is kind of a symbol of knockout culture, if you think about it, where you have a highlight and that is your moment and that is who you are as a fighter, as opposed to consistently coming out fight after fight and putting on exciting fights.
Fair point. It's an attempt at virality. All the content goes on YouTube, right? They want knockouts, they want mismatches,
In fairness, too, it's not like the Ultimate Fighter hasn't produced some duds either. Like Mac Danzig turned out to be nothing, and I thought he was going to be real good.
I wouldn't say nothing. He was a contender. He was half decent. But come on, T.J. Dillashaw. We've got Kamaru Usman, Michael Bisping, Rashad Evans,
of course,
Forrest Griffin, Robert Whitaker, Elias Theodorou. These are champions, man.
Contender Series has TJ Laramie, who's pretty solid.
Please stop.
Yeah, yep. You have to be established, but. Nate Diaz, Gray Maynard, Joe Lozon. Let's take a trip down memory lane.
Goes on.
No,
Ryan
dude,
Bader.
there's no way I'm saying
no
that.
time. We've done more than enough today.
Matt Serra, Travis Luter, Joe Stevenson, Diego Sanchez.
Hold on.
Roy Nelson.
I'm not saying that. It's. I have no way in saying that.
How about Michael Johnson, Tony Ferguson,
Calvin Gaslam, Uriah
John
Hall.
Dodson, Diego Brandao. We got Michael Chiesa.
Hold on a second. You just mispronounced your countryman's last name.
I know, Chiesa. Alaya Quinta. Hey, who for you guys was the biggest disappointment for you off of The Ultimate Fighter?
Uriah Hall, without question.
Pretty big disappointment, yeah.
I wouldn't say that's the thing. He turned out okay, but when I saw him, I had Anderson Silva 2.0 written all over him. It's because the thing is, it's not just the Amselo knockout. It was right after too. Like he kept knocking people out.
Yeah.
Right? So I was thinking, okay, Anderson Silva 2.0. So when Calvin Gaslam beat him, I was like, eh. You know.
Do you know who?
Gaslam is a tricky fighter, man.
Do you know who are two big ones for me that kind of let me down? Number one, not, and, through no fault of his own whatsoever, but Chris Holdsworth, poor guy.
Oh, yeah.
Had his career ended in practice by TJ Dillashaw. He was a very promising bantamweight prospect. And then the other one for me that, I thought was actually going to make a run and maybe even, make something of himself was what's this gentleman's name? Not Brookins.
Man, silence.
Forget it. It's not important. Anyways. Amir Sadallah. Yeah, I had high hopes for Amir.
But Amir Sadallah was also had a lot of injuries happen to him too. So.
Efrain Escudero, him as well.
Yeah, that was a weird year because that was a talent-rich year too. I remember that was the Junie Browning year.
Yeah. Junie Browning. You had at light heavyweight, you had some pretty good talent like Vinny Magalesh, Ryan Bader. You had Krzysztof Soshinsky, Tom Lawler. Yeah, that was a phenomenal
that was
year.
A talent-rich year too.
Felipe Nover.
Oh, remember when Dana White thought Felipe Nover was going to be like the next big thing?
Oh, he called him the next GSP, didn't he?
Damn. Yeah, that's crazy, man. Anyway. Guys, let's threaten the children and head on out.
Wrap it up.
All right, guys.
I just want to say my biggest disappointment would be Rashad Evans, who I think should have had a bigger career, but that's.
Wait, why is he a disappointment? He was a champion.
I know. I just think he was so ahead of his time. He was so ahead of his time. Like if he had fought in a different division, in like the modern era, like he would be way more dominant in my opinion.
David, did you realize that he was a champion?
Yeah, I'm undefeated for a while.
Did you realize that he was a champion?
I just think what David's saying is, though, he had greatest of all time potential all over him, right? And
sure.
He ended up just being pretty good. Like, well, not pretty good.
He was kind of a crossover generational star. Yeah. Do you know what I didn't realize? Him versus Machida is one of the very few title fights between two undefeated fighters.
Yeah. I remember with them saying that when Adesanya was fighting Costa.
Yeah.
Anyway, please take us home. Okay,
guys. My dog looks like he's not doing too well in the corner. He's having hiccups. So let me just say, if you don't subscribe, okay, I'll take the softer approach. All right. Comment, subscribe, talk to your friends about us. We love doing it. And if you don't, we'll vote Tito Ortiz for president 2024.
You do not want that.
You know what's happening right now, by the way, with him? The Huntington Beach City Council is like, they put forward a motion. They're like, yeah, this guy's not fulfilling his duties as he's dangerous. He's not fulfilling his duties as mayor. Get him out of here. Just go.
Political agenda. Sounds like the demon.
Wait, no, he's not a mayor. He's a counselor, isn't he?
Wait, what?
He's counselor, isn't he? He's like a.
Isn't he mayor?
Yeah, you said
As a city councilor.
Yeah. Well, anyways, he's a failed politician. We're going to elect him president of the United States.
No, you could be a city councilor. All right.
I bet I could. But I do a good job.
I bet you will. All right.
Some
Okay.
of these city councilors in Vaughan, man, like don't get me started. But anyway,
Oh, wow.
man, I'm not afraid to throw people under the bus. Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. Welcome to the Leg Kick, where we have the hottest local politics takes in the world. Okay, Michael, please.
All right.
Oh, Mike, do you want to talk about Paige Van Zandt a little more?
Maybe
we
after.
didn't really touch on that too much.
Maybe after, man.
With her exclusive content?
Did you buy it already?
Is it available?
I don't know.
A little Google search.
All right. In this crazy mixed up world where Stefano will be looking at Paige Van Zandt's exclusive content, probably with some lotion and some tissues, just remember, you got three things. You got life, you got family. Oh my God, he's really looking for it.
I'm curious.
Podcast. Later,
It's
everybody.
called Paige Van Z- It's called PaigeVanZandt.com. Hold on. Oh my God, that's so funny.
Later, everybody.